Today I'm going to show you how to make potato bread. You will need 300 grams of potatoes. This is the peeled weight though, not the overall weight of the potatoes. 300 grams of strong bread flour, 7 grams of dried yeast, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 tablespoon of oil, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 5 tablespoons of warm water. Firstly, peel and chop your potatoes. You need to weigh out 300 grams of the weight of the peeled and chopped potatoes as opposed to actually 300 grams of potatoes beforehand. Then pop this in a saucepan and cover with cold water. Bring to the boil and then cook for 15 to 20 minutes until they're tender but not falling apart. Drain the potatoes but keep the water that they've come from. So instead of the warm water, this is what I'll be using. If you chuck it away, don't worry, warm water will be absolutely fine. But it's quite nice because it keeps that flavour and it puts it back into the recipe. Once the water is body temperature, so not too hot to touch, then having measured out 5 tablespoons of your warm water, add your sugar and just dissolve that in. And then add your yeast and just stir that in. This helps reactivate the yeast so then it gets it going for when we put it in the bread. I find reactivating the yeast is good because then you know that the yeast works. I've had a few breads where they haven't risen at all and it's because the yeast has died for whatever reason, so this is quite a nice way of making sure that it rises. You want to pop this to one side for 10 minutes and a foam should appear on top. Then to your cooked potatoes, add your oil and then mash. You want it as mashed as possible. You don't really want any chunks of potato in there. Then after 10 minutes, to the potato add your salt and just give that a little stir. And then add your yeast mixture. And then stir the yeast mixture in. And then add your bread flour a bit at a time, just stirring it in. You will find that about 2/3, 3/4 of the flour will go in quite nicely and that last quarter will not want to go in. Keep working it. It will go in and it will work. You might want to tip out your bread onto the work surface and knead it in, but it will go in, so don't add any extra water at this point. It might be tempting, but don't, because it will make it sticky. And then once you have all your flour into your dough, you want to knead it for 10 minutes. So kneading it is using the palm of the hand, push it in, pull it off the work surface, turn it, push it in with the palm of my hand. You want to take it off the work surface to make sure it doesn't stick to the work surface, because it's so easy to just keep kneading it and then realise it's just a stuck mess on your work surface. So yep, bottom of the hand, push in, pull up, turn, push in with your palm of your hand. Or alternatively, you can use a bread hook on a mixer if you have one. Then once kneaded, you just want to put a bit of oil around the sides of your bowl, pop your dough in and then cover it with a clean tea towel or with an oiled piece of cling film. And then pop this to one side and allow it to rise for an hour. You ideally want to leave it in a warm place. After an hour, remove the dough from the bowl and you want to do what's called knocking back, which is just kneading it for 2 minutes. Once knocked back, I'm just going to add it to my bread loaf tin, which I have just put a little bit of flour around the sides to stop it sticking. So if you don't have a bread loaf tin, you can, if you want to, roll your dough into a ball, flour down a baking tray and pop this in the middle of the baking tray, and then it will rise as a round loaf instead. Pop your clean tea towel back over it or your cling film and leave it to rise for a further 30 minutes. Once risen for the second time, I just like to sprinkle a little bit of flour on the top and then just score the top so then it creates nice little ridges when it bakes. And then pop this into a preheated oven at gas mark 6, 200 degrees centigrade or 170 fan assisted for 30 minutes or until well risen, and when you turn the loaf over, tapping the bottom of the loaf, it sounds hollow. And there you have it. That's how you make potato bread.